Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Cohen back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer. It's been a few days. Halloween just came and went. I had some friends in town for the weekend, and so it was kind of difficult to get a video out. Also, it was NFL Sunday today. I wanted to upload a video today, but of course, I'm not going to compete with NFL games, so you might see that video tomorrow. It's going to be a Thunder video, so make sure you look out for that either tomorrow or the day after. But anyways, I'm back here again today to talk about the NBA games. There were a few today, and one thing I do want to start off with is something that I've been meaning to talk about in a video, and that's less so about like this game itself. I'm talking about the Trailblazers and Hornets game. The Hornets getting another big win. Miles Bridges continues to look like an all-star level player. LaMelo Ball with 27, 9, and 7. Terry Rozier made his comeback, dropping 14, 2, and 5 on Halloween. Scary Terry back in action. 26 from Kelly Oubre, 17 from PJ Washington. This was just kind of the Hornets firing on all cylinders, and if you want to see me talk about how good the Hornets are, go watch my last video. But what I really want to focus on is Damian Lillard. I've been meaning to talk about him. I've talked about James Harden, another player who has been struggling to start the season. I'll talk about James Harden a little bit later. He had a great game tonight. He had a triple-double in pretty few minutes of action because they played the Pistons. But Damian Lillard, if you didn't know, Lillard is off to a horrific start to his season. Something that is very uncharacteristic of Lillard, something that I don't expect is going to go the whole season. I don't think Dame's going to suck all year. It's not going to happen. Dame, for the past few seasons, maybe even longer than that, has been a consensus top 10 player in the league for pretty much everyone. He's been considered one of the most clutch players in the league, one of the best shooters, one of the best scorers, period, in the NBA that we've seen in this kind of like last 5 years or so. So, to see Damian Lillard get off to such a terrible start, including a 5 of 20 shooting performance tonight, it's super weird to see. And it's kind of a combination of things. We can go back to the rule changes like I talked about when I talked about Harden, but Damian Lillard isn't quite as reliant on the free throw shooting as some other players are. Yes, he does shoot free throws because all good scorers have a way to get to the free throw line, but Damian Lillard has just been missing shots that he typically hits. And it's really weird to see because we've gotten so used to, or at least I have, as a Thunder fan, gotten very used to seeing Damian Lillard hit clutch time buckets, be one of the best clutch players in the league, and kind of just get whatever shot off he wants. The whole Dame time thing. And then, so far this season, given it is not that far into the year, I am not saying that this is the way Dame is going to play all season, but so far, he's averaging 18.3 points per game, which is the lowest we've seen from him, 34.9% from the field, and 23.2% from three, including a 2 of 14 performance tonight. I did shoot 5 of 7 from three against the Clippers, so that's a good sign. But then before that, it was 4 of 11, 0 for 8, 2 for 7, 0 of 9. So he's not hitting his threes. He's just not hitting shots in general. One thing I do want to shout him out for, he's averaging 8.3 assists. His playmaking's been great. But they need Damian Lillard. They need the Dame from last season to be whatever they want to be. If they want to be a contender, they need to have Damian Lillard. If Dame is playing like this team's ceiling is very, very low. And I don't think he's going to play like this all year. I don't think it's going to happen. The problem is, in the Western Conference, things are very tight. There are so many teams that are good, so many teams that are making pushes, so many teams that are better than they were last year. This conference is going to be a really tough fight to see who makes the playoffs and especially who avoids the play-in. Because in those play-in games, there are going to be so many good teams. There are not many bad teams in the Western Conference, maybe like 3 or 4. I would say probably 3. 3 bad teams in the Western Conference. You know who they are. I know who they are. One of them's on this banner behind me. But the West is tough. There are a lot of great teams. And so you don't want to be in that play-in, and you don't want to fall behind early in the season. The Blazers have gotten off to about a 500 start, and they have a really tough schedule coming up. If we look at their schedule coming up, they've got the Sixers, the Cavaliers, who have been surprising, the Pacers, who suck, given, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Suns, the Rockets, the Nuggets, the Raptors, the Bulls, the Sixers, the Nuggets, the Kings, the Warriors, the Jazz. That's a lot of good teams in that schedule. There are only like 3 or 4 games in there that I think could possibly be like guaranteed wins if we just look how good both of the teams are. That's really tough. You need Damian Lillard back for these games. If Damian Lillard isn't playing like Dame, they're going to lose most of those games and get into a hole pretty quickly. And you can't have that happening. Whether or not it is Dame's fault or not, you don't want to do anything that could risk him asking for a trade or derailing the season to the point where maybe you don't make like outside the play-in tournament, maybe you go into the play-in tournament as a 9 or a 10, and you end up missing the playoffs somehow because you lose a play-in game or win one and then lose another. You cannot have that happen. Damian Lillard I don't think anyone in the NBA community would blame him if he asked for a trade. I think at this point, I personally thought he was going to get traded this past offseason. You don't want to do anything that could risk him missing the playoffs. And it's like a weird situation because the Blazers are kind of stuck. CJ's been playing great. CJ was the guy that a lot of people, me included, thought would probably have to be traded to make this team better. But CJ, to his credit, has really been pulling his weight. So it's weird to see this kind of flip where typically we see Dame carrying this team and not getting any help. Now, it's CJ and his teammates that are putting the team on his back, and Dame isn't quite playing up to standards. It's super weird. And I don't think it's going to result in... I don't think it's permanent. It's definitely not permanent. But he's got to be better really, really quick. Dame has to turn this thing around ASAP. Otherwise, things could get bad in Portland. It's just weird. There's so many players that are kind of going through this. I'm going to talk about James Harden, a guy who's kind of been going through this in a second. But Dame's got to be better. I'm sure his shots are going to start falling at some point. I'm sure it's just a shooting slump, but it's just so weird to see one this extreme from a guy like Damian Lillard that we're so accustomed to seeing be great. I guess we'll see. Like I said, this is going to be a tough stretch coming up for the Blazers. They're going to need Dame. Next, let's talk about the Rockets and Lakers game. The Lakers were up big in this one, and the Rockets, credit to them, fought back towards the end. It never really got too close. It was never within like single digits or anything like that, but the Rockets did kind of make it a fight. The Lakers, LeBron 15, 7, and 8, 16, 13, and 2 from Anthony Davis, who finally started at center. Like, it's been... Everyone knew that this was going to work. Everyone knew it would be a great fit. And they finally decided, let's do it. And then they held their opponent, given it was the Rockets, to 85 points. They look great out there. It really opened up the game. Russ had 28 and 9. He did kind of struggle shooting from the field, especially in the second half of things, but he was solid overall. 23 from Melo, who continues to have one of the best looking jumpers in the NBA. The Lakers look good. This was a good defensive performance from them. For the Rockets, they had a ridiculous amount of turnovers. Jalen Green continues to get off to a really slow start. He had 7, 5, and 5, but he shot really poorly. Jalen Green's going to be fine. Probably the biggest really shock is how bad his three ball has been so far. He just can't seem to hit the three, and he's struggling shooting his free throws. He's a great scorer. I think those things will come around. I think he should have the ball in his hands a little bit more. I don't like how little he has the ball in his hands sometimes. I know you've got guys like Christian Wood, Kevin Porter Jr., Eric Gordon, but Jalen Green was the number 2 overall pick. He is the guy that is supposed to be the face of your franchise. He should be getting a lot of touches. He should be getting a lot of run and a lot of opportunities to score and create for others as well. He so far has been their best distributor and playmaker throughout this season. I know Kevin Porter Jr., they're trying him out at the point guard. I personally don't know if that's a long-term fit, but Jalen Green so far has shown some ability to play make, so I'd like to see them play him there more. When he's played exclusively the 2 and the 3 so far this season. I think they should give him a shot there. I think that would be I would like to see them experiment with that a little bit early on in his career, get him those reps. You're not trying to be a great team. You might as well try guys out at different positions. And I think maybe trying Jalen Green at point guard could work out a little bit for them while they try and figure out who is going to be their primary playmaker going forward. Moving on from that, let's talk about the Nets Pistons game. Like I said, the James Harden had a triple-double. I didn't have to play many minutes. The Pistons are really bad. This was one of the better performances from the Nets, destroying an opponent that they should. They're a good team. The Pistons are a bad team. This is what should happen. As for the Pistons, no Cade Cunningham after he made his debut last night, which was not good, but he came off an injury. He hasn't played in a little while, not holding it against him at all. Cade Cunningham is going to be fine. A lot of people are going crazy on Twitter. Don't worry about that. People go crazy about everything. But overall, the Pistons just not great so far this season. Kevin Durant, 23, 1 and 5. The leading scorer for the Pistons was Corey Joseph with 13. So that tells you about all you need to know. Kings Mavericks, not a lot I want to say about this one in particular, other than the fact that the Mavericks offense just continues to feel kind of clunky at times. It felt so like fluid and dynamic at a lot of times last season, and now it just feels like they're trying to play Luka more off ball, and I get that. You want to see Luka kind of get more different looks. You don't want to force Luka to create everything on his own, but they don't have a great secondary playmaker. Like, they've got Jalen Brunson, but he's not a fantastic playmaker. They just don't have a lot of other creators for Luka Doncic. So it's hard for him to even get looks playing off ball. they have a scheme and they don't quite have the personnel to run it. I wouldn't be surprised if a trade comes at this point, some point during the season. Kristaps didn't play in this game, and when he's played, he hasn't been great this season. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's involved in that trade. But, at least they got the win over the Kings. Finally, we've got Jazz and Bucks. Nobody played in this game for the Bucks other than Giannis. He took a lot of threes. He took 11 threes in this game. I don't know if that was because he wanted to avoid going at Rudy Gobert in the paint, if that wasn't their game plan, they wanted to try and space it out, or Giannis is like, why don't I shoot 11 threes because we have like only me starting for this team that typically does. Grayson Allen had 18 points. He was a good pickup from the Memphis Grizzlies, 15 for Bobby Portis. On the Jazz side of the ball, Donovan Mitchell with 28, 20 from Mike Conley, who the Jazz desperately missed last game. Mike Conley is such a big part to this team. I don't think I can overstate how important he is to this squad. Rudy Gobert with 9 and 13. Just a solid team win from the Jazz, beating a team that they were supposed to. They didn't quite blow them out the way that they probably should have because of all the injuries to the Milwaukee Bucks. Also, the Bucks starting 3-4. Don't be worried about it if you're a Bucks fan. The Bucks are beat up like not many teams I can remember in recent history to start off a season. So don't beat yourself up about it. The Bucks are going to be perfectly fine. It's not their start, So those are my thoughts on the games. Like I said, not a lot happened, but particularly I want to talk about the Damian Lillard thing and I guess a little bit about the Jalen Green situation. Both those players are going to be fine, especially Dame. Like, I know that 100% because of how good he is. Jalen Green off to a bit of a slow start. He'll turn it around eventually. He was picked number 2 overall for a reason. But that's all I had to say about these games. I appreciate y'all watching the video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I will see you all later. Everyone say it back.